Hey everyone, it's Miss Mac here with another short video. This will be our first lesson on factoring polynomials. We have one learning objective for today. Our learning objective is that we can separate a polynomial into its factors. So I just want to give a little preview of where we're going in this video. In our previous lessons on multiplying polynomials, we learned how to go from two binomial factors like what you see on the left and multiply those together to get a trinomial. But in this video, we're going to go in the opposite direction. We're going to start with our trinomial and we're going to end up with our two binomial factors. So this will be our factoring process. Before we get started with learning how to factor polynomials, let's review what it means to factor something. So first we need to know what are factors, and factors are numbers or terms that we can multiply with each other to get another number or term. So factoring means to separate a number or term into its factors. Let's start with an example that doesn't have any variables. So first we want to find the factors of 24. This means we want to separate 24 into its numbers that when multiplied together give us 24. So some factors of 24 include 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 6 and 4, and of course, any number can be multiplied by itself to give you that number, so 24 and 1 are also factors of 24. By finding the factors of 24, we found which numbers we could multiply together to give us 24. So as we work through this video, we'll be doing the same thing, but this time, rather than just finding the factor of a single number, we'll be finding the factor of a polynomial. And in the case of our examples, we'll be finding the factors of a trinomial, a polynomial that has 3 terms. Just like when we were multiplying polynomials, we'll have 2 ways of factoring polynomials that should look somewhat familiar to the 2 ways that we use to multiply. The first method that we'll use is called the reverse box method, and that's because it will be the box method, but it will be in reverse. So we will start working from the inside of our box in order to get to the outside of our box. The second method we will use is called factor by grouping, and this is when we'll start with our polynomial and then we will eventually regroup that polynomial into 2 binomials using parentheses. So it should look kind of similar to the opposite of the distributive property. In today's video, we'll just be focusing on the reverse box method, and we'll come back to factor by grouping in another video. We'll start by looking at the steps for factoring using the box method first. So step 1 says that we will write each of the terms from our polynomial into the box. So whenever we've multiplied, we've always ended up with an x squared term here, and we usually always end up with our constant term here. So I'll choose one of the other 2 boxes and I'll put the third term here. We're not putting anything on the outside of the box yet. We're just putting the 3 terms that we have in our problem on the inside of our box. You'll notice that when we do this, we have a box that is empty, and we're going to see in the future steps how we make that box not empty. All right, so here's when factoring really comes in. Step 2 says we will brainstorm 2 factors of the last term that combine to give together to give the middle term. Okay, so let's look at the last term in our problem. The last term is 24. This is the term that comes last in our problem, and it is the term that is a constant, so it does not have a variable. So our goal is to brainstorm factors of 24 that will combine in order to make our middle term, and our middle term is 11x. So we're looking for numbers that will multiply to get 24, but add together to get 11. So let's start brainstorming some factors of 24. And we've already actually done this earlier in the video. We said that 2 and 12 together will multiply to 24. We also said 3 and 8. We said 6 and 4. And we said 24 and 1. Okay. And remember that our goal is that these factors that we've brainstormed will combine together to make the middle term, which is 11. So when we say combine, we mean that we can add or subtract in order to get that middle term. So if I look at my first factor pair, I have 1 and 24. I can't add or subtract 1 and 24 in order to make 11. So that factor pair does not work. Next, I have 2 and 12. If I added 2 plus 12, I would get 14. If I subtracted 2 from 12, I would get 10. So this factor pair also does not work to satisfy this step. Moving on to our next factor pair, we have 3 and 8. Well, I can add together 3 plus 8. 3 plus 8 is 11. So that actually satisfies both of these requirements. 3 times 8 is 24, and 3 plus 8 is 11. So I have found the two factors that will work for this step. Our third step says to rewrite the middle term using the two factors from the previous step in order to fill up our box. So we'll fill up this empty space that we have in our box. So the factors that we brainstormed from the previous step were 3 and 8. So instead of having 11x, we will erase 11x and rewrite 11x as 3x and 8x, because if I combined these like terms, that would get me back to 11x. So I haven't changed 11x in this problem at all. I've just represented 11x in a different way. I've represented 11x as 3x and 8x. Our final step says to put the factors we brainstormed on the outside of our box in our two binomial factors. So we know that in our binomials, we generally start with an x term and an x term, which together is how we created x squared. So we'll take the two factors that we brainstormed, which were 8 and 3, and we'll put them on the outside of our box. That means that we would have these two parentheses, 8 plus x plus 8 and x plus 3. And if we wanted to double check, we could just do this multiplication together really fast. We could do x times x, which is x squared, x times 3, which is 3x, x times 8, which is 8x, and 8 times 3, which is 24. And again, if I added together 8x and 3x, that would give me 11. So I worked backwards, and our two binomial factors are correct. Before we wrap up, we'll do one problem where one of our terms contains a negative sign, just to see how this process could be slightly different. So I'll use the reverse box method for this example. I notice that the last term in my problem is negative 12. Again, I'm looking for factors. That means numbers that multiply to make negative 12 that I could combine together in order to make positive 4. So let's think of some factors of negative 12. We know we have 12 and 1, 6 and 2, 4 and 3. Okay, and because we have a negative 12, that means when we multiplied, one of these two terms was negative. I'll start by first writing all of my terms that I have so far in my box. and then try to decide which of these pairs is going to allow me to combine my factors in order to make positive 4. Well, there's nothing I can do with 12 and 1 that would give me positive 4, adding or subtracting. There's nothing I could do with 4 and 3 that would give me positive 4, either adding or subtracting. But I could subtract 2 from 6, and that would give me positive 4. And 2 times 6 would also give me negative 12. So I'll go ahead and erase positive 4 from my box. And instead of positive 4, I'll write 6x and negative 2x. Great. Then I know that I can take an x out on either side here, and that the 2 factors that I brainstormed will be on the outside of my box. Whatever's on the outside of my box will make the 2 binomial factors. And now we have completely factored this trinomial. All right, everyone, I hope that was helpful. Next video, we'll come back to how to factor by grouping. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now. Thanks for watching.